This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today is Tuesday, which means we're doing a top 5 list. That is the way of things around here. And as you've probably already seen by the title of this video and the thumbnail, today I'm going to be talking about why, in my opinion, and these are just my opinions, you understand, I'm going to be talking about why, in my opinion, the electric guitar is the greatest musical instrument ever invented. So, there's no scientific proof for any of these statements. As I say, these are just my opinions. So what's the first one? The variety of sounds available. Yeah, it's hard to think of any other instrument that has the same variety of sounds. You could say that, you know, there are an infinite number of sounds available from, I don't know, a sampler or a synthesizer of some kind. But I'm going to talk about in the next point why I think the electric guitar trumps anything synthetic and sampled like that anyway. The variety of sounds from an electric guitar is absolutely staggering. You know, even if you just take a Fender Stratocaster, you know, think for instance of this Fender Stratocaster in the hands of Hank Marvin versus a Fender Stratocaster in the hands of Mark Knopfler. Entirely different sounds. And then throw Jimi Hendrix into the mix as well. Again, you know, an entirely different palette of sounds, all from just that one make and model of electric guitar. Expand that to the whole plethora of different electric guitar makes and models and designs, you know, and you can think, well, okay, the same instrument that powers a band like Slipknot is fundamentally the same as the instrument that Barney Kessel would have played, you know, a vibrating steel string, or a set of vibrating steel strings, usually 6 of them, you know, whose vibrations are turned into an electric current via the use of an electromagnetic transducer. And yeah, Slipknot to Barney Kessel, or Joe Bonamassa to Albert Lee, etc., etc. The sheer variety of sounds available from this one instrument, I think, makes it, well, one of the reasons why it's the greatest musical instrument of all time. Next. The emotional articulation. Yeah, I was talking about synthesizers and so on in that last point there. Do you remember in the 80s when we had the keytar? Remember those? Dear me, yes, all of the keyboard players were suddenly trying to be the cool boys down at the front of the stage, weren't they, playing their keyboards like this, you know, and, you know, they were out from behind the keyboard stands and they were going to be, you know, quite the keyboard hero as opposed to the guitar hero, and it never really caught on, did it? And here's the reason why, apart from the fact that the keytar just kind of looks a little bit odd, shall we say. But yeah, the thing about an electric guitar is that the thing which generates the note is you, the human being playing it. You're not, when you're playing a note, you're doing something more than just making an electrical connection that closes a switch that fires up a circuit that generates some kind of synthesized tone. You are creating the note. Every last feeling and emotion that you are experiencing will be, you know, kind of focused in that note in some way. It's one of the things that, you know, you can play something absolutely note perfect. You know, a note perfect tab transcription or something like that. You can play it absolutely to the letter or to the minim or crotchet as per, you know, how it's written, and it can still sound a little bit flat and a little bit lifeless because you're not injecting any. You're maybe playing a little bit hesitantly and a little bit uncertainly, and all of that kind of thing will come through in your playing. Every emotion, every feeling, every nuance of what is coursing through you will come out in your playing. And I can't think that there are many other electronic musical instruments, shall we say, that allow you to do that. Of course, acoustic instruments are, you know, kind of going to do that anyway, but we're talking about electronic instruments here, and the electric guitar is unique in that regard. I think I can't think of any other electronic instrument that will that captures the soul of the player in the same way. Next,
the sheer volume.
The volume. Back in the 1980s, there was a Channel 4 documentary about the electric guitar on TV. Channel 4 is one of the main TV channels in the UK. And I wish I could remember what it was called. But anyway, the opening line of this documentary was, before this, all instruments moved air. This one moves electrons, which I thought was just such a cool way of playing it. And, you can be one person with one electric guitar and you can fill a stadium with beautiful music. You think of things like, I guess when Eddie Van Halen would play Eruption in a football stadium somewhere, and he was owning the crowd. He had them in the palm of his hands. Gary Moore used to do the same sort of thing with the intro to a track of his called End of the World. Hendrix at Woodstock, playing Star Spangled Banner. One person with one musical instrument is just entirely filling that arena, that stadium, that field of performance in a way that had never been possible before. And I think that went a long way to democratise music in many ways, because once upon a time, if you were interested in playing to big audiences, you needed a big collection of instruments to do so. Because more volume, you need more instruments moving more air. Well, you can move more air with one instrument just by, picking up one of these things that doesn't move air. It moves electrons, which can move a lot more air than any other instrument before or since, really. So, yeah, the sheer amount of volume that you can create with one instrument meant, I think, that it made music more available to more people. So there you go. That's another reason why the electric guitar is, I think, the greatest instrument ever invented. Next.
The genres it inspired.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of related to point one on the list, the variety of sounds. But the variety of sounds inspired multiple genres. You could say that once again synthesizers came along and inspired different genres, and samplers, I guess, there are genres of music that wouldn't have been there without samplers and synths and stuff. But again, collectively, with the emotional articulation aspect of it, which I don't think that those instruments have, the electric guitar, think of the way that Charlie Christian, essentially invented the art of jazz guitar playing, and how that influenced people like Barney Kessel and T-Bone Walker and B.B. King, for example. Think about how the jangly kind of Rickenbacker sound from the 60s. Kind of created that whole sort of, would the Beatles have sounded the same? The Beatles, I think that those four lads from Liverpool were always destined to be musicians. But imagine if the electric guitar hadn't been around and they'd become, maybe some kind of folk quartet, kind of with acoustic instruments. Would that whole kind of 60s genre of music, what would you call the Beatles? What sort of genre? But that kind of 60s kind of sound, would that have sounded the same without the electric guitar? Of course not. Neither would blues, neither would country. I mean, when you get to the whole explosion of different genres of rock music in the 70s, country rock, folk rock, hard rock, heavy metal, etc., punk, new wave, all of these genres were driven and, kind of pretty much invented by people who were playing an electric guitar and, making use of the variety of sounds that it created. And, I think there's a strong case to say that none of these genres would have existed without the electric guitar. Next.
The way it looks.
Yeah, the way it looks. Perhaps the most shallow reason of all on this top 5 list, and you could say that, well, you're bound to love the way that the electric guitar looks because you play the electric guitar. But I would turn that around and say that, well, I play the electric guitar because of, what attracted me to it was, first of all, the sound. But, it just looks cool, doesn't it? It's, with a few exceptions. I mean, my opinions on Fender Jazzmasters are well known. But, some people think they're cool. Many people do. I realise I'm maybe something of an outlier in that respect. But, the way the electric guitar looks, it is, I think, design personified, because, good design isn't just about making something that looks good. Or making something that is functional but ugly. I think the electric guitar, in pretty much all of its forms, Telecaster, Les Paul, Stratocaster, 335, all the different kind of well-known designs of electric guitar, I think, not only are most of them incredibly well designed from a functional standpoint, but they just look good as well. And you see this throughout culture as well, because when a graphic designer wants to, make something look a little bit cool and a little bit rock and roll, when they're branding something or when they're making something that is, that needs a certain, a certain youthful exuberance, personified in its branding or its design, there will often be elements of an electric guitar, little kind of GIFs or graphics or something of an electric guitar shape, even just an outline or a silhouette will be sometimes incorporated into it. And that is, as I say, because I think the electric guitar is an incredibly cool looking instrument. So there you go. Those are my 5 reasons why I think the electric guitar is the greatest musical instrument ever invented. I'm sure there will be some you'll take issue with. There'll be some that you think I've missed. So that's for the comments section, I suppose. Leave your comments down there and let me know what you think. But that is pretty much the video for today, folks. Hope you found it entertaining and useful in some small way. And if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget, as always, the live stream every Friday, 5 p.m. UK time. We drink beer, we talk about music and guitars and all manner of other things. What a great way to kick off the weekend. I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.